Hi guys, welcome back to The Buzz. We're in another week and today's discussion focuses on a very serious issue, and that is mental health.
Yes, it's going to be a heavy topic tonight because it is serious. In this episode, you will learn a lot more about mental health issues.
And help you become more comfortable talking about it openly.
Yeah, we'll give some background about mental illnesses,
Discuss the stigma surrounding them.
And talk about what we can do to change attitudes and ultimately people's lives.
Yeah.
So guys, mental health.
In your opinion, what do you think mental health is?
Mental health. Well, it's the health of your mental, you know what I mean? Like your mind. Okay. Yeah, you know, it's so
The obvious, right?
Right. But you know, it's about your mind, the state of mind, how you're feeling. You know what I mean? A lot of people, when they think about mental health, they think, oh, there's something off about the person. You know, as they like to say, crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a lot deeper than just being crazy, because you know you have different issues that you go through, and these things affect how you react and respond in everyday life.
Yeah. For me, I think, you know, just like you focus on your health when it comes physically, mentally, you have to have like mental exercises, you have to make sure you're okay up there, emotional health as well. So it's aspects of our well-being on a whole, and that's what I think mental health is a part of it.
I agree. Just simply being in a healthy state of mind.
Yes. Simply put.
Yeah, I mean, even with this whole COVID-19 pandemic, you know, you see a lot on the news where it's like they say social distancing, stay inside, and it's like, you know, as humans, naturally you want to be around other humans, but it's like you have to pick two kinds of sicknesses. Either it's a physical sickness or a mental sickness.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, especially around this time, you know, you hear about people committing suicide because they've had to be locked in for weeks at a time, not seeing people.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy time.
And just the fear of COVID, you know, because they watch a lot of news and it can drive you mad, basically. And for me, COVID, I think this teaches us how important touch was for us. And, you know, yeah, like you didn't realize that, you know, just hugging a random person because, you know, you haven't seen them in a long while was actually a big deal. And for a human makeup, not knowing that human touch, intimacy is actually a very important part of our, you know, well-being. So,
and then having to adjust to not being able to do that, it kind of puts strain on your mental. I can say that I was one of them who got really uncomfortable during that initial lockdown. It took a lot for me to adjust to it. I just felt like my freedom was taken from me. And it messed with me on a different type of level. And what I ended up doing to cope with it was volunteer. You know, I just had to find some way to channel, because I went from being a free spirit to a caged bird, you know.
Trust me, I know. I'm a free spirit too, so and I love touch. And that was really hard. I'm sorry, I still hug people, and then I'm like, oh my God, COVID. Oh wow, we're gonna die. I still hug you anyway. Just make sure it's good, you know. So that's exactly what it does. I keep it like I hug somebody twice yesterday. I do. I don't care.
I tried to save her, guys.
I hug people. I try my best not to, but we get all masks.
But you know, going back to mental health, right? Do you think it's a topic or a thing that we ignore in Antigua?
Oh, let's not even talk about the stigmatism behind the mental illness here in Antigua.
And what would you say is one of the stigmas?
If you today literally having a meltdown just because you're probably going through a breakup, which is mostly, I think, the common thing that triggers mental illness. Or let's say the men and them on the road, you see them walking, the first thing they always say, he get knuckle, or some woman do his subbing, right? And you know what they do? They brush it off. Or if they see a young man, you could visually see that he's young and he literally walks with wonder in his eye. They are, somebody probably put something, he gone crazy, and they brush it off like it's not a big deal. So I think that they just left there because it's kind of neglected by society. And
I think it's also a case of education.
Yeah.
People don't know. I mean, schizophrenia is one of the most judged and misunderstood mental illness, and people mistake it or say every other thing else except really what it is, simply because they don't know.
What is it? No, I'm asking you because I want to hear. I have a sister who's a paranoid schizophrenic, so I want to hear what it is.
We have some professionals.
Okay.
That's gonna really
so
dive
I would
into
prefer
that.
for them to talk about it. But I said that to say that somebody would have an episode, and instead of realizing that it's a sickness, it's judged and you're cast aside or you're locked up, you know, instead of having the actual issue dealt with.
Yeah.
Then there's also the issue of, I guess, minimizing it, where we'd say you're psycho or you're schizo or you have OCD, even, and these are actual serious issues that we minimize when somebody just does something out of habit or you know, that type of thing. So I think it goes back to a matter of education. If we know better, we'll probably do better. So I'm happy that we have some professionals.
I'm happy too. And you know, of course, like, we have a lot of people locked in tonight. I didn't expect this. I mean, it's great. Thanks, guys, for locking in as usual.
Interact.
Remember,
they interact. Share the live. Share the live.
Remember, ladies, it's International Men's Day. I know you guys forgot about it.
We did not.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't try to do that.
You know, men's mental health is.
You trying to look for somebody to attack you?
International Men's Day.
He's looking for some.
Appreciate it. You know what I mean? But,
I get up now for me.
But you know, mental health among men is a serious issue because generally, you know how it is with men. We don't talk about how we feel and what's going on in our life.
And I like to always
it's not probably embraced as well by the rest of us.
Yeah.
I mean,
those told to man up.
Men are the leaders. They've created this problem. By the way. Anyways.
What you say, right?
Coming up after the break, we have Associate Clinical Psychologist, oh my God, I'm trying to get it right, Regina Aparicio, and Clinical Mental Health Counselor Claudine Knox joining us. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Gotta go shopping? You have two options. Option 1, you can stop what you're doing. Drive to the store, get stuck in traffic, struggle to find parking, spend time shopping, not find what you're looking for. Wait in line forever, lug heavy bags to your car, and get back home a couple of hours later. And now you're tired. Option 2, download Allmart. Easily browse stores. Order online. Select pickup or delivery. And done. Phew! Which are you choosing?
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ashanti.
And you're watching The Buzz.
The Buzz Hot Button Issues is sponsored by Townhouse Mega Store.
Hi, I'm Candace. If you want to learn more about our cast and crew, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
The Buzz Hot Button Issues is sponsored by Nigel's Restaurant.
All right, so welcome back to The Buzz. We are recapping. Today's discussion is about mental health awareness, and I have two guests tonight, Regina and Claudine. And just before we dive into this, I just want to take a moment and thank our sponsors, ACT, Allmart, and also to know that we are still doing 39 days free delivery with Allmart, and it ends December 9th. Okay, and remember to share our live right now, and I see a lot of people are on right now. Thank you again. We're appreciative of the follow. We're appreciative of how many people are interested in tonight's topic. So welcome the guests to the set. So introduce you guys yourselves, just to make it easy on me, I'm just saying.
Okay, I guess since I'm furthest away from you, I'll get started, Ashanti. Well, as you would have mentioned, my name is Regina Aparicio. I am an associate clinical psychologist. A lot of my work really entails working with persons to achieve wellness. Particularly what I've found is that I tend to work best with adolescents. That is also the age group that a lot of persons tend to shy away from or find to be most problematic, but it is a joy because it's challenging. I like challenges as a person. I see it as an opportunity for me to grow. And aside from that, I'm also particularly interested in the way in which us as human beings, the way we manage our emotions. And that is pretty much me in a nutshell, from a professional standpoint, of course.
Okay. And Claudine?
Sure. So Claudine Knox. I work with Crossroads Center. So I do addictions counseling there. And then I also do a private practice where I see adults and also do couples therapy as well. Some adolescents, Regina does a lot more of that than I do. But what's really nice about having the merger of the private practice and being at Crossroads is you get to cover a diverse range of clientele, which keeps it interesting for me.
I have a question for you too. Why did you guys choose this path in life? In this profession?
Well, for me, actually, it's by accident. When I went to university initially, I wanted to do business and chose psychology as a minor and found that I had zero interest in the business and all my interest was towards the psychology. So slowly the ball got rolling from there and came down this path.
And how long have you been doing it?
I've been a therapist for about 20 years now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And Regina?
So for me, it wasn't by chance like Claudine. It's a situation where since I was a teenager, I knew that I wanted to help other people. Initially, I wanted to be a nurse, and I think that's a go-to for a lot of young people because you don't know a lot about other professions that exist. And I also was battling between that and wanting to be a neurologist. And then I did science-related subjects, and I was like, hell no, this isn't going to cut it, right? And then I stumbled on psychology throughout that period. I remember being told by friends and so forth that I was really good at listening and giving good advice. And it was one of my friends who actually suggested, you know what, why don't you be a therapist or a psychologist? At that time, I didn't even know what that was. And I did my own research, and after that I was like, you know what, this really sounds like me. This is something that I'm interested in. And since then I have basically studied everything related to psychology. Unlike a lot of some of my peers who I would have gone abroad to study with at the time, I didn't opt to do like major and minors and things like that. And I know a lot of persons even told my parents, oh, why is she not trying to balance herself out and try something else as well? But I was so dead set on this is what I want to do that I took every opportunity that I could to learn as much as I could about people.
Okay, so why do you guys think that mental health in not just our society but on a whole is a touchy topic?
Well, earlier at the start of the show, you were talking about the stigma, and the stigma is a huge part of it. Not just for Antigua, but the greater society. There's so much stigma about addiction and mental health in general that people see it as something that once you have any sort of mental illness, that there's a point of no return, and that there's no sort of wellness. And while there's a whole book of diagnoses, there's such a range to mental illness that people don't understand, and people conceptualize that mental illness is this selection of severe illnesses, when there's a lot of minor issues that often aren't addressed. And also the concept of mental health is really about what can I do to take care of myself, cognitively, take care of myself emotionally, as well as socially, the interaction between the types of people I choose to have in my circle, and how does that enrich my life.
Yeah. And do you think like the education or access to education about mental illness, is it there or readily available for persons like, let's say, the regular Joe or Jane?
It's not, and you know, that's something that I would love to see more in schools, for example. Classes that help children understand how to cope with feelings, how to connect with others, how to reach out and ask for help. That's a huge component that's just missing, and unless you have a parent or a teacher or somebody else that is available and really takes an interest and teaches that child how to communicate on an emotional level, it's not a skill set that just comes naturally like that.
Yeah. Okay. I guess since Claudine.
I'm sure you saw my nods in agreement.
Yeah,
right?
I see.
Claudine has really hit the nail on the head in terms of their need, being a need alongside actual subject areas like math, English, and social studies, that we incorporate how persons can, learning social skills, how to manage emotions, because they're very important life skills that individuals need to have. If we look at, for instance, let's say in the business world, aside from being really good in terms of having technical skills, one has to know how to go into an interview, for example, and remain calm and not be overly anxious, right? So that the thoughts are not all jumbled together and then not being able to even utter a word whilst being questioned by a potential employer. As much as a person may have the various technical skills, if it is that they can't remain calm under pressure, then that can be significantly problematic. However, these are not skills that are readily being taught within the academic environment, and sometimes even at home.
Okay. What mental health issue that would you say that's going around that's like common in Antigua that we don't tend to take seriously? Either one of you can answer.
Well, what I have seen at least that is often overlooked would be depression, anxiety, and even the overuse of substances. For the latter point that I would have mentioned, a lot of that has to do with our cultural beliefs and traditions, whereby alcohol use, for example, is incorporated into a lot of activities that we do, especially within the Caribbean. And so for that reason, persons who may find themselves having difficulty with the use of alcohol in terms of overusing can easily be missed because it is so ingrained in our social interaction. So for instance, if we go to a funeral and there's a wake, there's alcohol being used. Sometimes even before you reach to the wake, right at the end of the ceremony, somebody would pop their trunk open and you see a bottle of brandy, a bottle of Johnny Walker being readily shared amongst persons there. If you go to a wedding, it's the same thing. If we go to carnival festivities, just anything that really involves socializing. If we look at Christmas, before COVID-19, where you would have large gatherings of family members and so forth, it almost didn't feel as if the celebration could really be a celebration if there wasn't a bottle of rum on the table, right? Some persons actually bring that as a gift to events, to parties, more so than a more personal item for the person. Then as it pertains to anxiety, there are times when you would hear persons say, what is that about? Persons being anxious, that being a problem, that is often overlooked. even as it pertains to depression, oftentimes persons are not fully aware, especially within our society, what exactly are the signs and symptoms of depression. Yeah. Depression doesn't always show up as somebody just laying in bed curled up crying. It can show up as anger as well, being overly irritable, right? And so it's very important for persons in our society on a whole to have a good understanding as to how these various conditions manifest themselves and how they show up for a person, and also how it is that it impacts the individual's ability to function and to thrive.
Yeah. How prevalent do you think mental health issues are in the region right now?
Very prevalent, and especially with COVID, what we're seeing not just locally but around the world is that things like anxiety and depression are escalating. People who maybe had a history of these issues, they're now having a reoccurrence of them once again, and then people who have never experienced anxiety or depression are experiencing it for the first time. And what's happening with many people, Regina was talking about alcohol. What were people doing in lockdown? For many, it was drinking. It was using cannabis. And one of the things that's really important for people to recognize is that anxiety and depression are worsened when you use chemicals like alcohol and cannabis. And what many people don't anticipate is that even when you stop, there's a withdrawal period. And even if you weren't addicted and needed treatment for it, it's enough to experience escalated anxiety or depression. And it's often not attributed to that chemical.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the problem areas in Antigua right now? Like, you have substance abuse, anxiety, depression. Like, can you guys zone in on some of the extreme problem areas that we have going on right now?
So for me, what is particularly troubling is that I am seeing quite a number of adolescents who have either attempted suicide or are currently experiencing what we call suicide ideations, which is the constant thought of wanting to harm oneself. And that too is often tied to feelings of depression. So when it is that I meet with these young persons, we conduct what we call screeners for various mental health conditions, and oftentimes they are flagged for depression in particular. And it is often overlooked by parents when I have to then call them back into the session, and I'm like, well, this is a challenge here. And some don't know. And that for me is troubling. Or it's a case where I've heard parents say to me, what kind of problem he or she can have that they want to kill themselves?
You have everything.
Yes, you have everything. When I was your age, I didn't have X or I didn't have Y. And so I remember one of the hosts spoke earlier about minimizing another person's experience and how problematic that can be. And there are also times when our children or young persons in particular have actually encountered some really traumatic experiences that their parents really don't know about. Right? For instance, child abuse. And that, in essence, oftentimes really affects an individual on a very deep level. Some try to ignore it, think that, okay, you know, it was just this, or it was just a touch, and I'm okay, not recognizing that that has really contributed to the difficulties that they've started to encounter throughout life. Some try to avoid the feelings of the emotional pain that carries. And it does show up, to be honest, Ashanti. It does show up. Even if an individual tries to mask it, it shows up in various ways.
Okay. Well, guys, this has been heavy. This is a lot of information. I see a lot of people interacting, but we're going to take a short break and then we'll be right back, okay?
Kandesi.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ashanti. And you're watching The Buzz.
The Buzz Hot Button Issues is sponsored by Townhouse Mega Store.
On November 1, 1981, 39 years ago, Surveyor Byrd Sr. led Antigua and Barbuda to independence. On November 1, 2020, Allmat brought 39 days of free delivery to all the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Wait, what about tourists?
What about medical students?
What about me?
You know here, everybody in Antigua, their mother, father, auntie, granny, and picnic.
Download the Allmart app or visit allmartplace.com today to enjoy 39 days of free same-day island-wide delivery from your favorite groceries, retail stores, and local businesses.
All right, so welcome back, guys. And so far we are in the discussion about mental health awareness. We have Claudine and we have Regina here with us tonight, and we've been diving into some deep stuff. Mental health illness and, you know, substance abuse, teenage suicidal thoughts, a whole lot of stuff. If you missed out, you can always go look back, but still. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to just dive into the comments and you guys are going to weigh in.
Okay.
So if you guys have any questions for them while they're on, just drop them in the comments. We got you. So I see Lawanda, she's like, I'm on a practicum in social work, and for my counseling sessions so far I've been facilitating students with their emotional intelligence. It's very important for life lessons. They need to know their personality type and triggers. Nikki Nook said some additional mental health issues would be anxiety, depression, neglect, post-traumatic stress, negative past experiences. I can add postpartum depression because they neglect that one for sure. A lot of mothers go through this one. And well, we see AJ says that when there's no orange juice in his house, he gets anxious. Also, if there isn't any food, so I'm sorry, AJ. Seems like you're gonna be anxious all the time, right? And somebody else says neglect, love, lack of finances, being abused, bullying. Yes, don't down another person. I guess she was talking about you when you're saying about minimizing. Marcella says our young people are being told they don't have any reason to be depressed. However, we pressure them constantly about their future but don't check in with them mentally. Children do have feelings and emotions. They shouldn't be ignored. And Aaron, what would you say is a way to overcome mental health issues without meds? What are some of the common triggers for some mental health issues? I guess we'll just dive into that question here. So can you get over, like, be doing this without meds? Because I know people always like, I don't want to go on meds. I've heard people say this before.
Absolutely. There are many cases of people that can come to a therapist, such as one of us, and do the work that they need to do so that they can change that script for themselves and see some changes in the way they're thinking, make some behavioral changes, and in turn also experience that emotionally. You know, for something like anxiety and depression, you can medicate someone, and in many instances that is necessary. But there's another part of it. You have to be looking at the person's thinking, and changes need to be made there. As they learn to make those changes, they can see even better results. So for many, it's a combination.
Okay. Okay, so this is a big question. I'm sure everybody needs to know this. Let's say, you know, I have a friend, and, you know, what is it that I need to look for to know that they do need help? Or even like yourself, like what do you look for to know, like to identify that, okay, all right, I need to go and check myself, or, you know, speak to somebody or anything like that?
So with regards to your friend, I think sometimes being able to see challenges with another person is easier to see as opposed to oneself. So if we were to look at another person, it's important for you to understand what is that person generally like. And if you have an understanding of who he or she is, then it's very easy to identify who he or she is not. And so if it is that, let's say you're noticing any changes in behavior, for example, your friend was more outgoing and you're noticing for some time that that friend has become a bit more withdrawn, no longer finding pleasure in activities that they once enjoyed, constantly being seen seemingly miserable, irritable, and things along that line, then that sort of like sends off somewhat of a red flag that, hey, something may be amiss here, and that person may be having a difficult time. And you know, this is probably the moment in which I probably need to say to him or her that I'm noticing that you're becoming more withdrawn, you don't seem like yourself, are you okay? And oftentimes even that simple question can cause a person to open up and things start to unravel that way, because that person then begins to feel as if, well, hey, my friend cares about me enough to ask. And even that question, I think, too, sort of sparks this this whole chain reaction within a person, that they begin to even ask themselves, well, am I really okay? How am I really doing, you know? Now, with regards to an individual, like I said, that can be a bit challenging because sometimes the individual is experiencing difficulties. And I mean, this could probably happen to each and every one of us, where we're just going about everyday life and not really checking in with ourselves. And sometimes it's only when things become really problematic, when it is that you feel as really significantly overwhelmed, then you may come to that realization that, hey, something may be a bit off here, I'm not feeling my best. So what I would say, it's very important for persons to really practice checking in with oneself, asking yourself, well, how am I doing? How am I showing up today? Am I my best self? Am I okay? Am I coping? Am I managing? Is this a difficult time for me? And so it's very important for persons to practice that sort of thing on a regular basis.
Okay. And recognize that people are more likely to need help for those transitory periods. So you've got a new job, maybe you've recently lost a job. Periods like that can be really stressful. So sometimes you might need someone to help you just navigate the changes in your life, so that you can make the necessary adjustments and return to that internal state of calm. Another reason to reach out for help as well can be just for self-exploration. And that's one of the things that we really don't value as a society. You can go to a therapist for self-development, explore yourself, get to know yourself. How can I become the person that I really want to be? And how am I going to get there? Counseling is a wonderful way of learning that.
I agree. What are the trigger factors for mental health or mental illness?
Exactly what we're experiencing right now, high stress. When you have a situation where there's high stress and low levels of support, that is often a recipe for disaster for many of us. And then when you combine that with substances, that's another layer of difficulty as well. If you have a previous history of mental illness, then that is also something that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay. I have a question right here before I dive into my questions. Most persons can't afford going to the doctor. Would you say that lack of financial support is a major reason as to why most persons don't go to therapy? In what ways do you personally attempt to assist with a person who wants to go to therapy but really can't afford it? I know most people I know say that, like, I just can't, or they start, or they just can't keep up with it most of the time. So I guess, you know, what would you say to that person?
Okay, so that is a difficult tool to line to toe, right? Because to be honest, Ashanti, I was even discussing with Claudine before we came on set that I have seen the reverse happen in my practice, wherein before COVID, wouldn't have seen as many clients. Persons would pop in here or there, probably didn't follow through with sessions. But then now, at a point where there is significant job loss, persons are experiencing financial constraints, but they're showing up because they have gotten to a place where they've begun to prioritize and recognize that, hey, my mental health is at risk. And so I need to put measures in place in order to ensure that I can maintain my mental wellness. So I do hear persons say that from time to time, well, I can't afford it. But sometimes it's a case of not necessarily prioritizing, right? And then there are genuine cases, of course, whereby persons genuinely can't meet the cost. And so in those cases, I would really tell persons to reach out to the governmental services, which are free, of course, for counseling. And I'm not sure if you would believe me if I say this, but oftentimes, even with free services, people still don't commit. They don't show up, right? There are times when, because I do work in the government service, so I am speaking from a place of fact and knowing, right? There are times when persons would be called to sessions, and this is even before COVID, and they would not show up. There would be no call back to say, well, I'm not going to make it for XYZ reason. They would just disappear, right? And so there are various factors beyond finances that contribute to a person's willingness to follow through with treatment, to continue to attend therapy. Sometimes it's a situation whereby they've gotten to a point where the change needs to happen. And because we're so comfortable sometimes with just being the way that things, how we are, when we're challenged to get to that point, then it's like, well, I kind of feel like this feels safe. So let me stay here. And that sometimes contributes to absenteeism as it pertains to therapy sessions.
I can totally agree with you when it comes to prioritizing, because I remember I started my therapy session, well, I've acknowledged that I needed therapy last year, and then I had a moment where I had that, I'm fine, I could handle this, I've been handling it well all my life. And then it reached a point where I was like, nah, like I really need to do this. And I literally said, I don't care what the cost is, I'm going to put aside money showed up, and I've been doing therapy. So guys, again, what you said about prioritizing, and please tell them that there's the free.
So there are free services, and aside from even the government offered services at Family and Social Services Division, UNICEF has also offered e-counseling services for free from the onset of the pandemic. I try, I'm not sure if it is that persons have tapped into that option. I do share it with persons whenever they do indicate to me that there is a financial challenge. However, I also hear people say, well, I prefer to have somebody right in front of me. I already have to do everything online. Why do I have to see a therapist online? So that is another challenge as well. We are beings that are more attracted to social interaction. And so this whole technology thing is difficult for a lot of persons to get accustomed to. So that in itself poses its own special challenges. And I noted that you said, Ashanti, that you committed to the process, starting to pay for sessions, and you followed through. And that too can act as a motivator for some persons. If it is that they are paying for the service, then there is value added, right? Whereby an individual would then tell themselves, look, I am paying for my hour, so I am going to show up, because there are penalties if you don't show up, or if you don't show up on time, right? Because that can impact whether it is that you have your session. So all of that is really motivators for an individual, so that they not only show up for their session, but they do the work outside of session, which is actually, I would say, more important sometimes than the hour, because the work that you do is really to follow through with what you have decided to work on with your therapist within that short window of a session.
I think for me, it was at a point where I'm like, girl, it's either that or you get your shit together, basically. And the fact that I did that reality check made me commit completely to it, and I practically became obsessed with getting my mental health in the right place. And at the same time, I do understand, and I can relate to a lot of persons, like when they start the therapy, and I can see why people back out when you reach to a point where you're backed against the wall and you have to face what is the problem, and like not wanting to say, hey, this is the problem and I don't want to face it. And you know, again, where you said about support, if you don't have the support of people, being alone and having to deal with that work it could actually probably dive you deeper into a really bad place. So I know I'm grateful that I had the support system when I was going through that. So I told people that I know I could trust that, hey, I'm doing this and I need, like when I'm in that place, I need you in XYZ time. And even to become vulnerable, to then say, hey, I need your help, because I'm one of those women that I get everything done myself. I don't like to ask for help. This is weak, you know, so I had to drop my guard. I had to be very vulnerable and let people know, like, hey, this is what I need to do. There was even a point where I didn't even want to tell people that I was doing therapy. And it just like became something where if you don't say it, then you make somebody else believe that, okay, it's actually okay. It's actually okay to just do therapy. It's okay to want to develop yourself, even self-exploring. And I think it's more so self-exploring and dealing with past traumas that's the choice that I made to dive into therapy. So yeah, guys, it's hard, but
and thank you for sharing that, because I think that's such an important point. There's often so much embarrassment about reaching out for help that they really only want the therapist to know about it. They don't want anybody in the family to know about it. Let's just keep it this shameful secret, when really that's not what it needs to be. There's a strength that comes with asking for help, because if you can reach out to a professional like us, you'll slowly get better at doing it with other people in your life. So that the next time you won't get to the point where you're struggling as much emotionally.
I mean, even as being an entrepreneur, there's that level of mental strength that you need. And for me, the vulnerability thing and the power when it comes to being vulnerable came from that lady Brené Brown. So I love her. She's made fabulous. Me realize, oh my God, like shame and these things, like what's that? So, you know, I became more comfortable in just owning my good sides and my bad sides, or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, that's been like a really like a breath of fresh air for me. And I'm still work in progress, and I'm proud of myself so far. But you know, snipe back into the questions, because I see a lot of people asking things. Somebody also said, are there any problems for children to see some, I guess, programs for children to see someone? I mean, we normally say teenagers, right? Do you think like children as young as like 7, 6? I usually hear they say teenagers are problematic. But what about like the small children? Like, what about programs for them, or you know, how what should I say? How much would you say there's problematic younger children in our society right now?
You see, the thing is with that question, right, Ashanti, the challenge that exists for our society and a lot of other Caribbean islands is the lack of data collection. Right? So it's often very difficult for us to pinpoint and say, okay, well, this is what we're seeing in terms of the numbers. We can all look at our individual practices in terms of getting a sense of, hey, well, this particular age group seems to be having a difficult time right now because these are the calls that you're getting, this is the age range that you're seeing, and so forth. So although I would have mentioned that I tend to see a lot of adolescents, I do see children a bit younger as well. Some would have had a difficult time, particularly in regards to COVID, having to adjust to not being able to engage with their peers, because play and that level of interaction is very important for very young children to learn and to engage. And so for some children, that was this is a very difficult time for them. The other area of concern by which I do see children from time to time has to do with kids that are diagnosed with a condition that we call ADHD, and that oftentimes comes with difficulties with managing emotions. And so for them, they may be seemingly, at least on the surface level, be considered a bit more defiant, And so parents sometimes have difficulties managing that and reining them in a bit, and because they're a bit more emotionally expressive, right? If it is that they don't like something, well, they're going to know, right? And so for some parents, it's very difficult trying to manage, especially if it is that the child is angry, then they may be more inclined to show their outbursts a bit more. And that is because of that condition, which tends to develop as a child develops, right? And so you call those conditions neurodevelopmental conditions. And so for a lot of parents and children, it's very difficult having to navigate that experience. And, I think I've pretty much answered that question. And anxiety does show up as well for children very young. So it's not just from teenage onwards that we do see problematic behavior. If, of course, a child had an early experience of trauma, then that too can impact their behavior, right? There are times when a child may suddenly be brought to the agency in which I work, or may come into conflict with the law, but then when you go back into the past and you do some digging and you ask the questions that you need to ask as a counselor or a therapist, then you get a sense that, okay, well, the problem didn't start at 12 or 13. The problem may have started at 5, 6, or 7, but was often ignored or overlooked, or they thought, well, she's just probably just doing her thing. They'll grow out of it. Not recognizing that what happens is that they actually evolve.
Like something that it's a little fire and then it like becomes an extreme bushfire, basically. Okay, so let's dive back into the questions. What determines the treatment outcome of each cases?
So that's a variety of factors there. So first of all, you would want to consider the diagnosis. Some diagnoses are more difficult to treat than others. It depends on the severity within each diagnosis as well. We were talking about social support before. Having social support and family support is a major factor for a person's success. Motivation. What is your motivation for coming to counseling? Because if it is for somebody else and you don't want to be there, no change is going to be made. It's a personal investment. It's a personal journey. It takes work. So unless you're willing to do the work, nothing's going to happen. So one of the things that we do for our assessment, we don't want to hear from just the family members. We want to hear from the client, him or herself. We want that person to reach out for us. And then that way we can have that discussion.
Okay. What resources are available right now for anyone that needs help?
I'll let you address that.
So the Family and Social Services Division has a counseling unit that is available free of course. UNICEF has online counseling available. There, alongside myself and Claudine, there are a wide variety of therapists. Unlike when I was much younger, that wasn't the case. So we do have more persons coming on board within private practice to provide a wide array of services. I know of family therapists being on island. I know of mental health counselors, psychologists, persons who are training even in spiritual counseling. So we are getting there. We are on our way. Couples therapists as well. That's really true. We have a few couples therapists, to be honest. Some persons that I've probably just learned about even this week. So we do have a wide array of professionals available who can address a number of psychological issues and concerns. With regards to substance use challenges, Claudine would have mentioned working at Crossroads, so that facility is available.
Just stick a pin for a minute. On the note of Crossroads, though many people might have heard that Crossroads is closed at the moment, we offer a virtual program between now and January. Middle of January, we're going to be reopening our residential treatment center. So that's going to be available for services for addiction. Meanwhile, please still call Crossroads to get information about the virtual program.
Okay. And I know this next question, tell us about mental health Antigua. I know I'm always following your stuff. So let the people know about mental health Antigua so we can get them to be more engaged on the page and stuff.
Of course. So that too is a resource that is available for persons who may just be trying to understand what it really means with regards to mental health. And so it is a resource page or group that is available for all to access. It started out being focused on persons in Antigua as a result of COVID-19, because as I was mentioning to Claudine before we came on set, what started to happen is that I would wake up in the morning and I would see various messages from persons who actually knew that I studied psychology, reaching out, saying to me that, I'm having a difficult time, how can I cope? Or I know of somebody else who is having, and I don't know what to do, where to take them, where to go. And I'll be honest, I started to ask myself, well, okay, how can we really reach more persons without having to take up so much time trying to address each individual concern? And then aside from that, one of the other co-creators, she was actually living in Wuhan, China at the time of the outbreak. And coincidentally, she reached out to me and was like, you know what, Regina, I really think that we need to offer some level of support to Antiguans. This thing is going to touch our shores, and we really need to see what we can do. Can you assist? And I told her, sure, no problem. That is even before we really thought out what it really was going to be. And it just kept evolving. It started out as weekly Zoom sessions. I would say more so group therapy, but still not the formal group therapy, because we just tried our best to make it work. We had a whole host of persons discussing a wide array of issues, not just mental health experts, but even persons from other fields like economics, because we realized that finance was a major stressor for a lot of persons. So we tried to get them to understand, okay, this is what you can do within your respective households to try to buffer the experience. There were persons who, there was a minister who came on board who is trained in spiritual counseling, so he tried to give some assistance from that end, because persons were having a difficult time trying to understand, well, how am I going to manage this experience when I don't know when it is going to end? What can I hold on to, so we tried to make it as wide as possible to reach as many needs as we could. And then it evolved to being a bi-weekly, because what happened is myself and the other psychologist who was responsible for providing the clinical expertise on the team, we had to go back out to work. And so that in itself became a bit challenging to navigate, having to commit to a weekly session. So we went to bi-weekly. And as it is that things started to get a bit settled amongst the persons who regularly participated, we shifted a bit to now monthly sessions, that is once every Tuesday. And so we're still following through with our commitment in terms of providing that level of support to persons in Antigua. What we've also found, which has led to our newest initiative, is that a lot of persons didn't really know myself and Claudine, as an example, existed. They would come and ask, well, who can I go to? And I would be sitting there as a mental health professional, but I know this person, I know that person, but how come you don't know? And then I started to tell myself, you know what? We probably need to do more with that regard in terms of providing information and to help to make sure it is accessible. So it's not a case that persons don't want to seek out help. Well, some, I should say, as opposed to applying a broad brush, but there are some persons who genuinely did not know where they could turn and to turn to trusted sources too. Because what was happening, I would say, when I was much younger, is that there were persons providing counseling services who are not equipped to do so, right? That is just me being honest about the situation. But now the reality is that we do have persons who are trained counselors, who do engage in continuing education, who do ensure that they operate in ethical means and through ethical practices because of that training. That training exposes you to that. So, like I said, we're in the process of creating our newest initiative, which is basically going to be a directory for mental health professionals. And so when I say directory, it's not just going to be like when you open the phone book and it just looks a little boring with a list of names and numbers and that's it. We recognize that persons even ask us, well, how does this person look? Who is this person on the other end of the line?
I was actually about to go and ask you that question, but I want us to dive deep. Let's take a break, and then we're gonna dive deep into all of that right after the break.
Sure.
Right. Welcome back to The Buzz, and we are just about to wrap up things. It was deep. It was deep tonight. So Regina, you were just telling us about where we can have a directory of the therapists, psychologists, everybody on island.
Yes. So as I was saying, persons started to ask more questions after we started to send out contact information for various therapists. Then the questions came. How does this person look? Who am I going to be speaking to on the other end? Can they really address my issue? So we thought to ourselves, okay, so it's going to be very important for us to not just provide a name and a number, but also provide somewhat of like a profile. So that persons can feel a bit more secure, a bit more comfortable, I should say, with knowing that this person who I have set up my appointment with can handle my stuff, can handle everything that I am going to present, because everyone thinks, it's going to be very important for me if it is that I am going to open up my baggage to another person or reveal myself to another person, that it's important for them to be able to carry that weight with me.
Okay, so I have a final question for you, and then we have quite a few questions in the comments. What advice would you give someone who may be in need of help? So I don't know if whoever wants to take that question.
So regarding the directory, calling any one of us is a great starting point, because, for example, even if you call me, if I am not exactly the right fit, what's nice is we're all well networked. So if I'm not the right fit for you, what I can do is say, you know what, I think Regina's a better choice for dealing with your specific set of issues. So I'd like for you to call her. And for example, that's one of the things that I address briefly on the phone. First point of contact is often a phone call, free consultation. We spend 15 minutes just discussing what is it that you want therapy with, what do we need to address. And based on that brief set of information, I often have enough to say, okay, well, this is a case that I can deal with, or maybe this is a case I need to refer to Regina or someone else. And if it is a case that is appropriate for me, then you'll go and you'll move on to the next phase, which is the assessment, which is something more thorough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to definitely dive into
So the investment.
Yes.
The personal investment.
Yes.
This is not like buying an outfit. This is something that is long lasting. You're going to benefit from for a very long time for investing in yourself. And that's important to remember.
We've never been taught that we should put ourselves first. And I think we need to change that narrative. And I think when we get that, then everybody will feel not guilty about putting themselves first. Someone asks, how can I ask my 8-year-old if he has any issues that he would like to talk about? I have an 8-year-old. My own very, very versed. He will let you know. So I feel like I can answer this. Like, you're supposed to know your child enough to say, hey, you can tell what their love language is, you can tell what they enjoy, maybe what even triggers them. And I think it's just a matter of being in tune, instead of just thinking, oh, I have a child and, you know, take them to school, just giving them things, but more so creating a relationship and really trying to get to know somebody, just as if you would try to get to know like somebody in a relationship. You ask them questions, you try to find out, okay, what's your favorite color, or whatever the case may be. And for me, my son, he shuts down if he's like mad, but I know he won't let it go. So he probably tell me the next week, Mom, remember that time I was mad about this? And then he'd be like, no, I don't forgive you, but this is what it was. So even if I notice like he wouldn't want to speak in the moment, I let him be. Because, you know, some people, they don't know how to speak in that moment. I'm that type of person. I want to talk about it right now, and he's not that way. And he would shut down because he's mad. And when he calms down, he'll come around and be like, okay, this is what it was, or whatever. So it really comes down to, guys, you having or knowing your child, basically. And I think it's as simple as that.
One of the things that's really important to remember about kids find this difficult. This is intimidating, sitting down and having a talk. But if you engage a child in an activity, do some coloring. Start having the discussion while you're engaged in an activity. You'll find you'll probably get far more from the child than if you just sat down and said, so tell me.
It's so true. And I guess, you know, we're adults and we're always the one disciplining them and all that. So I think when you come down to the fun level, you come down to their level, basically, it'll work. Yeah. So that's nice.
And to even also ask open questions, as opposed to trying to lead them in a particular direction. Because sometimes persons do that because of not knowing, right? And a child may respond to you based off of what they think you may want to hear, because they're trying to assess or judge, okay, am I going to get into trouble? So let me try and give you a response that you want to get away, right? So it's going to be very important, as Claudine would have mentioned, try to use activities to segue into the discussion and try to keep it open. And parents also have to be prepared for what is going to come out of the discussion too.
Yes. Funny thing that you said that. You see, the older generation, and I like to speak about this, where children are to be seen and not heard. So for me, my son will be more so outspoken. He's like me. So if he feels a kind of way, he would tell you straight up. Or if you're bantering with him, he would respond to you. And, you know, older persons would be like, you're rude. But I don't think he's rude. I think he's literally speaking on his own. So I think maybe rude would be like, you know, you just like an adult being rude to someone, or, you know, children don't really know. Well, I think they don't really know. They're kind of ignorant when it comes to certain things. So then for me, that thing where we say children are supposed to be seen and not heard is a thing that we need to get rid of. And children are people too, and they have feelings, they have thoughts and concerns just like we do. And I guess.
Yeah, and when children are small, there has to be that space from very young where you validate their feelings. Yes, I understand you're hurt. Yes, I understand you're frustrated. And just give them the chance to be able to share that feeling. Because if they're not going to do it when they're small, how will they ever learn how to do it later on as adults? Right? So that emotional expression starts from a very young age. I definitely
see that in the working world, where, you know, you can't say anything if you have an elder there and they immediately think you're rude just because you respond to them and they like remind you that I'm here before you, or, you know, that case. That happens a lot because I've experienced that many workplaces. So I guess I understand where that is. But I think that's it for the questions tonight. Somebody mentioned that we need a part 2, so interesting. You guys are quite popular tonight. So once again, thank you guys for coming through. It was a pleasure. It was my pleasure. It's personal as well because I've been on this journey, still on the journey as well. And, you know, I think everybody can take away something tonight, at least something. And I'm hoping at least one person felt inspired enough to get up and go visit Mental Health Antigua and check out that directory that you have up there, because I know I saw it. So, yeah. All right, so Candy and Aaron will be back on set. Stay tuned, guys, and we'll be right back.
On November 1, 1981, 39 years ago, Surveyor Byrd Sr. led Antigua and Barbuda to independence. On November 1, 2020, Allmat brought 39 days of free delivery to all the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Wait, what about tourists? What about medical students? What about me?
You know here, everybody in Antigua, their mother, father, auntie, granny, and picnic.
Download the Allmart app or visit allmartplace.com today to enjoy 39 days of free same-day island-wide delivery from your favorite groceries, retail stores, and local businesses.
4, 3, 1.
I'm Candace.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ashanti. And you're watching The Buzz.
The Buzz Hot Button Issues is sponsored by Townhouse Mega Store.
4, 3, 1.
Hi, I'm Candace. If you want to learn more about our cast and crew, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
The Buzz Hot Button Issues is sponsored by Nigel's Restaurant.
Alright, welcome back, guys. So Aaron and Candy is back on set. So guys, how was that? I know you guys are in the back.
Yeah,
It was heavy.
Yeah.
It was a lot of information. I am happy that we had the interaction coming from our viewers, sharing, asking questions. It means that conversation has started.
Yeah.
Or it's continuing for some people.
What you guys think about the directory or them putting out the directory?
Well, actually, while offset, I actually got a WhatsApp message. Somebody sending in asking, where can you get information on practitioners? And just after she asked that question, Regina started talking about it. So I'm like, that question is being answered. But that's really cool because I myself have had, or I'm on my mental health journey because I was diagnosed with depression. So I'm actually on the way to a healthy state of mind. Yeah. So it's a journey, and I struggle with it sometimes, but it's just like with anything else.
Yeah.
So the conversation has started, and I'm happy that now that there's a lot more information out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people willing to assist. So that's a big deal for me because I had to do some hunting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm.
How can we as a society play a part in helping our brothers and sisters, being our brother's keeper?
I think we should support one another because I have this discussion in my office, right, about mental health, and especially when you're a man, right? They're like, you don't need to talk to nobody, you go and talk to your boys, and then you just laugh it off, and something that they may say will make you feel better, and you just move on. I was like, yeah, but you have that short space of time of feeling better, but you don't actually solve the problem in the long run.
Well, actually, I know of people who currently have that type of space where they create for men to talk to one another about the issues that they're having.
I can't remember.
I do think
about,
that it is a form of therapy, especially if there is somebody there with experience. But I feel the step of having somebody to talk to is the biggest help that type of environment can create, because sometimes you just need to get it off your chest.
Yeah.
And that makes the world of a difference. So I do think that that is a form of therapy though. So
Yeah.
it may not be a very bad thing.
I think it's good because then your peers, like if you come and say, hey, you know, I'm doing therapy, then maybe you might trigger your friend. I've been in situations where I've started and my other friends started, and I speak to people and
for
it
me,
does.
because I started to speak about it a little more openly, I have had people reach out to me asking, okay, I think I might need somebody to talk to. Where can I turn? And you know, even I point them in the right direction, or might pass on a contact information here or there. So I know it started, and then that person can help somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think that paradigm is shifting. So it's just for us to continue to educate.
And to be honest, you know, like even though it's a personal investment for yourself, sometimes, you know, once you gain that knowledge as the work, when you do the work, you can actually be in a state of mind where you can help your friends as well. Even let's say they can't afford it, you find yourself in a space where even if they come to you like damn, like you've seen, you have the information, like you know what to say, you know the questions to ask them so that they can dive deep within themselves to then ask themselves the question.
Yeah.
And then of course, like I like to say I'm not no therapist, but I could then direct you in the path of going where you need to go. So I guess we're going overtime tonight. But do you think the government does a lot when it comes to mental health?
They need to do a lot more. I must say that 100%, because I've had people very close to me have had to go through the mental health institutions, especially up at Clearview. And what I've seen from my own eyes and what I've been told as well, it's not a place where if you have a mental issue is where you'd want to be. You know what I mean? Because it's back to what we say, like they do not take mental health as a serious thing, and because they don't take it as a serious, you're crazy, that's the first thing they say, rather than thinking, okay, this person is the way that they are because of XYZ. And even the two young ladies said that substance abuse or things that happen at home or certain situations that happen in life cause them to go to that place. You know what I mean? And it's not everybody that's born with a mental illness. Some people acquire it over time.
Yeah.
Even from an insurance perspective, because I don't know, maybe I can be corrected, but some things are probably not covered for insurance, so it's not treated as if it's health in general, just like with everything else. I mean, your mind is a part of you, just like the rest of your body. So I think all of it should be taken holistically from a government standpoint. So just like you have at the clinics, you can go and get your eye checked out, or you can get a dentist somewhere. You should be able to go and get mental health therapy at your local clinic.
I also think the same should apply, like obviously just like how we have sick days from work, like sick days, we should have mental health days. Because I know just before I left from the UK, they were it actually introduced mental health days in the workplace. So if you felt like, boy, you wake up one day and you're just not for going to work, you could say you're having a mental health day.
That is where the private sector could come in as well, because I mean they have that flexibility where they can start to incorporate this into the workplace. So they as well have a part to play. I mean, we all have a part to play in turning this entire thing around where mental health is concerned.
I agree. But yeah, so we'll just big up our sponsors. We're gonna try to wrap it up now.
Yes, it's a lot. It was a lot of information.
It was. I see people asking for a part 2. I believe that we might just have to do it.
All right, shout out to Townhouse Megastore, the shop till you drive promotion. Yeah.
Well, Walmart still got 39 days of free delivery until December 9th.
Yeah.
Yep. Make your orders, people. I think it's the minimum of $100, and it's free island-wide delivery.
Oh, wow, you guys better make use of that right now, because after December 9th, you're gonna have to pay for that. And I know how Antiguans are.
So check out the service now that it's free. See how they are. See see if they're efficient, you know, and afraid to tell them if they tap too long for delivery things.
That's a good one.
Yes. You know, check it out now so that you know what the service is like, so you know what you're paying for.
You can also get the app on the App Store, the Play Store on Android. So make sure you download that. So
it's available on iPhone as well.
The App Store.
I agree. And Christmas is coming up, and we're basically gonna have a drive. I mean, I'm very passionate about these things. Where, you know, guys, we're asking for any donations, canned food, toiletries, or anything so that we can donate at our final season, right? Our final episode, we're gonna basically donate it.
Doing a little bit of giving back.
Yeah, so, I mean, we don't want to just...
season.
Y'all don't want to just see our cute face. We got to do something, right? I'm just saying. But yeah, so also Ewan's affordable Christmas arrivals and specials starting December 1st. Follow his page on social media to stay informed about
Ewan's
his deals.
Affordables.
Is it Ewan?
Ewan's.
I don't know. It's EWANS, right? So, I mean, some people are bigging us up. Thank you for the the
guilty consumptions, guys.
Yes, I totally forgot about that.
Oh gosh.
My store's open, guys.
The Cheesecake Fairy is just skipping over
She just had a
the
big
fact that
milestone.
she had a grand opening. So we already know what her highlight of the week is.
And we're still waiting for the cake.
Don't do that.
We're still waiting.
I literally had you guys on my list, but I had to restart. They emptied me out today. Thank you, guys.
I have a question for you before we move on.
What?
Do you make? Somebody was asking me if you make New York cheesecake.
Of course I do.
Okay. There you go.
All styles.
She makes all styles of cheesecakes.
All kinds.
All kinds. And new flavors, guys.
Yeah, I've been coming up with new flavors.
Make sure you check out the store. What's the name of the street?
It is Hilda Davis Street. Hilda Davis Drive.
Hilda Davis Drive, right by PM, guys. Check it out.
All right, guys. So, question of the week. What will you engage in for the rest of the week that will bring you joy? 'Tis the season. The question again, what will you engage in for the rest of the week that will bring you joy? Ponder it, think about it, execute it.
And what will you guys do?
I'm going to the beach on Sunday, and I'm going to have recreational time because I need it. I'm so tired. I know for sure that's what I'm doing.
I'm right there with you. I was supposed to go today.
Girl.
I wasn't able to. So that is my aim for the week.
I need some time for myself.
Shout out again to our sponsors, ACT and Alma Townhouse Mega Store, for our beautiful sets that you're viewing right now. Nigel's Catering, he's open weekly on Anchorage Road, guys. Go check him out at the Food Bada Bada. Sweet Chills in Seaview Farm. Yes, that sweetness gives chills.
And they got some good waffles, guys. If you like chicken and waffles, check them out.
Alright, guys, quote of the week. Quickly before we go.
I have my own right here.
Yes.
You can still love yourself and be a work in progress. I love that quote.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
Snap.
Yeah.
Alright, so mine is, we fear what we do not understand. Understanding may be the key to compassion.
Yes.
Well,
that's one of my favorite quotes too. I love it.
Aaron,
I do not have a quote today.
Alright, guys. So on behalf of the Buzz, remember to follow our social media pages. Facebook, The Buzz Hot Button Issues, and on Instagram we are The Buzz TV Show. 3 Z's, guys. Follow us, share the live. See you next week, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. It was your favorite host,
it's your boy Aaron.
Candy,
and the Cheesecake Fairy.
Have a good night.
Bye.